Hello fellow Magic players. Today I am going over my sea creature deck because one of you wanted a very distinct card by card detail of this deck. And I do not blame you. It is very fun and I would love to get this deck out to other people so that they can play it. Now keep in mind this deck is not 100% optimized because there are some cards in here that I can throw in to make it even better. But on the other hand, it's already strong enough as is, and I don't really think it needs much else. So it's sitting pretty where it is. To kick it off, let's start with our land base. We have a total of 11 forests. Okay. Most of this deck is blue, but we still want a good chance to get some green in here so that we can play any green spells we get. And then we have 17 islands. And then we also have 8 non-basic lands that are all blue and green. And you can replace this for a blue-green non-basic. But other than that, we have Tinglepool Bridge, Thornwood Falls, Simic Growth Chamber, we have Mystic Sanctuary, Rejuvenating Springs, Rimewood Falls, Lush Oasis. And that is our lands. And on top of that, for mana, we have a total of 10 artifacts. However, only 2 of them are mana rocks, which are Soul Ring, obviously, and Simic Signet, obviously. And then we also have Caged Sun to double our mana and make all our creatures +1/+1. And then Gauntlet of Power will do the exact same thing. And then we have Strionic Resonator. Now the reason why I threw this in this deck is because all, if not most, of the creatures that we have in this deck have triggered abilities. And if you really want to, you can squeeze the power out of it and squeeze as much use out of those abilities as possible by copying them with Strionic Resonator. We have Mjolnir Stormhammer. I put this in because being able to tap your opponent's creatures on your attack phase is pretty darn good. Especially when you're swinging with 5/6s and 8/8s. You want to make sure they connect because these don't have trample. And honestly, you can take this out for something else that you may think the deck would need, and it will be perfectly fine. We have Crystal Ball. This is a must-have in the deck. It's a 3 mana artifact that states, pay 1 mana, tap it, and scry 2. But your commander, Kenessos, Priest of Thassa, states that if you would scry a number of cards, scry that many +1 instead. So really this is tap it, scry 3. We have the Temporal Anchor. At the beginning of your upkeep, scry 2. Whenever you choose to put 1 or more cards on the bottom of your library while scrying, exile that many cards from the bottom of your library. During your turn, you may play cards exiled with the Temporal Anchor. So how this deck is going to work, I probably should have went over the commander with you, but when you scry an additional time. You can pay 3 and a blue or a green for his activate ability. It says, look at the top card of your library. If it is a Kraken, Leviathan, Octopus, or Serpent creature card, you may put it onto the battlefield. If you don't put the card onto the battlefield, you may put it on the bottom of your library, much like scrying. So, what you want to do in this deck is you want to scry as much as possible, and any sea creatures you look at while scrying, you want to put them on top of your library. Then your commander's triggered or activate ability to instantly put those creatures out onto the battlefield and cheat them out. Now 4 mana is quite the cost, which is why we have the which is why we have the Gauntlet of Power and Caged Sun that both double our mana. And when you're scrying, you have a high chance of revealing one of those cards and being able to put it on top and know that you will get it. So almost every time I play this deck, I get the cards I need for my engine because I'm scrying. And what Crystal Ball, or not Crystal Ball, what Temporal Anchor basically does, I did read it off, but beginning of your upkeep, scry 2, which is scry 3, to be able to scry at the beginning of your upkeep is extremely good. Because you can scry, then put creatures on top, or, no, you can scry, and then put a card on top that's not a sea creature, so that you draw that instead of a sea creature in your draw step. Because the phase goes untap, upkeep, and then draw. Your scry happens on your upkeep, put a non-sea creature card on top so that you draw that instead of your sea creatures. You do not want them in your hand. You want to be able to cheat them out from the top of your library. And then, afterwards, you get the sea creatures out. But this also says, when you choose to put one or more cards on the bottom of your library while scrying, so putting them away, so that you can get to your sea creatures, you may exile them instead. Now, during your turn, you may play cards exiled with the Temporal Anchor. So what this does is whenever you put a card from scrying on the bottom of your library, it's not gone. It's not gone forever. It's not that you're never going to be able to play that card again. Because sometimes you weigh the option. Sometimes you get a really good card that you have to put away because you want to see a creature out. So Temporal Anchor makes it to where it basically gives you a second hand to play from that has no maximum hand size. So, our last two artifacts, we have Illusionist Bracers. This is a huge part of the engine. Whenever it's an equipment, whenever an ability of equipped creature is activated, if it isn't a mana ability, copy that ability. You may choose new targets for the copy. It is a 2 mana cast and equip 3. So you obviously equip it onto your commander, Kenessos, Priest of Thassa. And then when you pay the 4 to trigger his ability, it triggers twice. So you'll get the top 2 cards of your library. If they're both sea creatures, they both enter instead of just the one. So you're getting double the value out of it. Now, we have 4 enchantments. Oh, sorry. One more artifact. We have Scroll Rack as well, which is a no-brainer. This is a more expensive card, so I completely understand if you're not able to get this for the deck. You pay 1, tap it, exile any number of cards from your hand face down. Put that many cards on the top of your library into your hand, then look at the exiled cards and put them on top of your library in any order. So you exchange your hand with that many cards on the top of your library. So if you end up getting sea creatures in your hand, you can pay the 1, tap this, and put them on top of your library and then cheat them out. This is if you were to eventually get stuck with a creature in your hand that you'd have to hard cast. So, our enchantments. Call to the Kindred. It's an aura for 3 and a blue. Enchant creature. At the beginning of your upkeep, you may look at the top 5 cards of your library. If you do, you may put a creature card that shares a creature type with enchanted creature from among them onto the battlefield. Then you put the rest of those cards in the bottom of your library in any order. Now, this is good and bad. It's subjective. You can take it out of the deck and it'll work just fine. I just feel like this synergizes with the deck well, for the majority. You want to look at the creatures and see what you have, the majority of. I believe this deck has more Krakens or Leviathans than anything else than the other types. So you would want to equip this on a Kraken or a Leviathan to have the highest chance of hitting its trigger. Then we also have Kiora Best the Sea God. It's 5 and 2 blue for a saga. First phase of the saga, create an 8/8 blue Kraken creature token with hexproof. So, this comes in, first phase of the saga triggers, you get an 8/8 Kraken with hexproof. Pretty good. 4, 5, and 2 blue, so it's already basically like paid itself off. I mean, people pay that much for 8/8s all the time. Then it has 2 more phases to go into. I'm surprised this card isn't more expensive. It's like a dollar as far as I know. Tap all. Second phase is tap all non-land permanents target opponent controls. They don't untap during the controller's next untap step. So at that second phase, you tap all non-land permanents, that includes creatures, that an opponent controls. So you're opening them up to attack. You can attack them freely with all your big bad sea creatures, and as soon as that happens, it's pretty much an instant kill, depending on how many big creatures you have out. And then stage 3 says gain control of target permanent an opponent controls, untap it. Doesn't say sacrifice it, doesn't say until end of turn, you keep the card. So even if you don't win by phase 2, you're still gaining control of something, and that's going to help you out in the long run, depending on what you get. Our third enchantment is Netherese Puzzle Ward for 3 and a blue. At the beginning of your upkeep, roll a d4, scry X, where X is a result. So again, at the beginning of your upkeep, you're getting some scry. Now, with your commander's ability, the minimum you're going to scry is 2, because you're adding an additional scry. So even if you roll a 1 with a d4, you're still scrying 2. Oh, and whenever you roll a die's highest result, draw a card. So that draw triggers after the scry, which is fine, because then you'll draw 5. You'll have to roll the highest result, which is a d4, so you'll scry 5. And then you'll put something that's not a sea creature on the top, so that you draw that, so you get some card draw, and then you get sea creatures on top that you'll cheat out. Quest for Ula's Temple is 1 blue for an enchantment. At the beginning of your upkeep, you may look at the top card of your library. If it's a creature card, you may reveal it and put a quest counter on Quest for Ula's Temple. At the beginning of each end step, if there are 3 or more quest counters on Quest for Ula's Temple, you may put a Kraken, Leviathan, Octopus, or Serpent creature card from your hand onto the battlefield. This is so good, because then once you get the 3 quest counters on this, which you pretty much will, you can just bust out a Kraken, Leviathan, Octopus, or Serpent for free from your hand. So now you're free to, so now you can choose to draw a sea creature from the top of your deck and get it out for free instead of paying a 4 from your commander. And now for our 2 Planeswalkers. We have Kiora, Master of the Depths. It's 2, a green and a blue. She starts with 4 loyalty. And the +1 says untap up to 1 target creature and put up to 1 untap up to 1 target creature and up to 1 target land. So you can untap a land, get some mana back, and you can untap a creature. Pretty good. Now, -2, reveal the top 4 cards of your library. You may put a creature card and or a land card from among them into your hand and put the rest into your graveyard. So, it really depends on what else you have, because you don't want creatures in your hand, you want them on top. But if you have Quest for Ula's Temple, that's fine, because then you cheat it out at your upkeep. Or your end step, I mean. And then stuff with Scroll Rack, you could just swap your hand with the top of your deck and just put that on top of your deck. So this really has to synergize with some other cards. But you don't have to get the creature. You can put the land into your hand if you want instead. So if you're missing on some land drops, you get to look at the top 4 cards, and if any of them are land, boom, get it. Now the -8 So you have to +1 her 4 times to get this. But with all the sea creatures you have out, they're pretty big defenders. Well, they're not defenders, but they're good at defending. You'll be able to defend your Planeswalker, no problem. The -8, you get an emblem with whenever a creature enters the battlefield under your control, you may have it fight target creature, then put 3/8/8 blue octopus creature tokens onto the battlefield. So I don't know how this is exactly worded, so I'll have to look it up, but it's either you put 3/8/8 blue octopus creature tokens on the initial activation of the -8 ability, or if it's the emblem doing it, then you get an 8/8 whenever a creature enters in general. So I don't know. But either way, you're getting 3/8/8 octopus creatures. Pretty darn good. Now our second Planeswalker, we have Jace the Mind Sculptor. Again, a bit more of an expensive card. Depending on which printing you get. This one is 2 and 2 blue. Starts at 3 loyalty and he has 4 abilities. His +2 is look at the top card of target player's library. You may put that card on the bottom of that player's library. So you can really screw some people over with that. And his +2, which is pretty good. His 0 ability is draw 3 cards and put 2 cards from your hand on top of your library in any order. Insanely good. So what that is doing is you draw 3, and then if you have any sea creatures in your hand, put them back on top, and then you keep the other card. So basically draw a card, put some sea creatures on top, or whatever you want on top. Now, you can -1 and return target creature to its owner's hand. This can be some good removal. This can be you can bounce something to your hand if they have an ETB, and it's a battlefield effect, or if something is being targeted on your turn, I believe you can do that in response. Because it's just good. And -12 is exile all cards from target player's library. Then that player shuffles their hand into their library. You never want to do that. I mean, that's just scummy. No one's going to like playing with you, and odds are you're not really going to get to that. What you're really looking at here is the 0 ability. The 0 and the +2 and the -1 are what you're looking at, but 0 for the most part. And now, on to the instants and sorceries. We have 12 of them. We have Entish Restoration. I believe it's our first mono green card. Shows you how much green is in this deck. It's 2 and a green instant. Sacrifice a land, search your library for up to 2 basic land cards, put them onto the battlefield tapped, then shuffle. If you control a creature with power 4 or greater, instead search library for up to 3 basic land cards, put them onto the battlefield tapped, then shuffle. Odds are you're going to have a creature with power 4 or greater. Almost every single creature in here that's not strictly for support is way above that. So you're gonna sack 1 land, and you're gonna get 3 entering the battlefield tapped. Pretty freaking good. I mean, yeah, they're enter tapped, but it's still 3 lands, and I mean this thing costs 3 mana. So I mean, if you play a forest, so say turn 1, you play a forest, and then you tap it, play a soaring. There's your 2 mana for that. And then, how much mana is Simic Signet? That's 2. Okay. Well, either way, turn 2, if you get a Soul Ring and any green mana, you're going to be able to play this. I mean, you'll get the minimum benefit out of it because you won't have a creature with power 4 or greater. But by turn 3, 4, you should have one. Crush Up Tentacles. One of the few board wipes in the deck. It is 4 and 2 blue for a sorcery. You can also pay its surge cost, which is 3 and 2 blue, so 1 less mana. You may cast this spell for its surge cost if you or a teammate has cast another spell this turn. So you get to pay it for 1 cheaper if you've cast another spell this turn. And it says, return all non-land permanents to their owner's hands. If Crush of Tentacles surge cost was paid, put an 8/8 blue octopus creature token onto the battlefield. So say that you play a really cheap spell this turn, like one of the other Instants of Sorcery, so that are 1 or 2 mana. Then you can pay its surge cost, which is 1 less mana, so you're saving mana on this. And you get an 8/8 blue octopus onto the battlefield. And you're board wiping the whole board. So all non-land permanents go back to their owner's hands. So your board goes to your hand. But if you have Gauntlet of Power or Cage Sun out, that's no problem. You'll have more than enough mana to be able to just recast everything. And if you get Sea Creatures in your hand, if you have Scroll Rack or literally any of the other cards I stated earlier that put cards from your hand on top of your library, that's fine. Put them back on top. You'll cheat them out again, and you'll be the only one with the board to say it. Now, there's excuse me, Whelming Wave, another board wipe. This one's much better though, because it's 2 and 4 blue, or 2 and 2 blue, sorry, so 4 total. So that is already 2 mana cheaper than the other spell. And this is a one-sided board wipe. Infinitely better than the other one. Return all creatures to their owner's hands except for Krakens, Leviathans, Octopuses, and Serpents. You wipe the board, you keep your board state, and you freely swing and finish the game. Impede Momentum, 1 and a blue. Sorcery, tap target creature and put 3 stun counters on it, and scry 1. But really you scry 2 because of your commander. So really this is a form of instant scry, is why I have this in here. So, a form of early scry, so that you can get some creatures out earlier because it's only 2 mana. Any little spells like that are really nice. Attempt with Discovery, 3 and a green. Search the library for a basic land card, put it onto the battlefield, untapped. So pretty good. Each opponent may search their library for a land card and put it onto the battlefield. For each opponent who searches their library this way, search the library for a land card and put it onto the battlefield. Then each player who's searched a library this way shuffles it. So, there's some ups and downs to this. Yes, you can benefit your opponents by having them search the library for a land. Any land, it doesn't have to be basic. But you do the same. First of all, it's letting you search for a land, any land, and have your non-basics. And then your opponents may do the same. For each who does, you do it again. So in 4-player Commander, you're able to get a total of 4 lands that don't have to be basic onto the battlefield untapped. Extremely good. I mean, that is hypothetical. That is if they take the bait. But if you are in a game where a lot of people are struggling on mana, that's going to be really good. And then you're going to be in the lead. And it has happened more times than you would think. We have Dream Cache. 2 and a blue, draw 3 cards, put 2 cards from your hand both on top of your library. In any order, pretty good. Foresee, scry 4, then draw 2 cards, so scry 5. Preordain, 1 blue, scry 2, then draw a card, so it's scry 3, then draw a card. Brainstorm is 1 blue, draw 3 cards, put 2 cards from your hand on top of your library in any order. Ponder, a blue, look at the top 3 cards of your library, put them back in any order, then shuffle and draw a card. Well, actually, it says you may shuffle, you don't have to. Blessed Respite, I like this one. Target player shuffles their graveyard into their library. Prevent all combat damage that would be dealt this turn. Super good. This has saved my ass a couple times. Cultivate. Early ramp. Everyone knows Cultivate. Search library for 2 basic lands. Put 1 onto the battlefield, tap 1 into your hand. Now, for the meat of the deck, we have our creatures. We have 35 creatures total. Now, what I'm going to do is this video is getting a little too long, so I'm going to go through the creatures very quickly, but I'm going to make it to where you can see them very clear, and you can pause them at any point. Okay? There are some notable ones in here. Keep in mind, any of them that are under 4 mana you don't really want to cheat out with your commander. You could just cast 7 for normally if you would like, but the majority of these you're going to want to cheat out. Let's make sure my focus is right. Deep Sea Kraken. He's unblockable. Opponent casts a spell. If he's untapped, remove a time counter from it. He has to spend 9, which is fine because you're cheating him out. Like 7, 8, 9, 10. Yeah, he's 10 mana. You would cheat him out for 4, but you can actually cheat him out for less than that with some other creatures that help. I'll show you in a bit. We have Scourge of the Fleets. There you go. He's a board wipe when he enters. Omenhawker, this guy's a mana guy. Really good one too with what we're doing. We have Slumbering Isle. You're getting a 12/12 out. Cheating him out. Cephalid Empress. Opponents can't play, or your opponents can't play blue creature spells. And some other stuff. Pretty cool. Pretty good. Simic Sky Swallower. He has a 6/6 with Flying Trample Shroud, so he's good to cheat out. The Deer Kraken. Draw a card, pay 1. If you do, put 1/1 counter on him and make a 1/1 tentacle creature token. Pretty good. Gives you a pretty good board state. Tolarian Kraken. Draw a card, pay 1. If you do, you may tap or untap target creature. Again, tap your opponents, get them free and open to attack. Cephalid Faceseeker. She basically just becomes a copy of something on the board, except it's a 1/4, and this creature can't be blocked. So it's pretty good. Yeah, they'll be a 1/4, but they can't be blocked. So, and you get their abilities, whatever they may be. This one's good. Trench Behemoth, 7/7. We have Brennelin the Moonkraken. We have Shipbreaker Kraken. Lorthos the Tidemaker. This one's really good. When he attacks, you may pay 8, easy, with the mana doublers you have. If you do, tap up to 8 target permanents. Those permanents don't untap on their controller's next untap step. Insanely good. You lock the game out with that. Icebreaker Kraken. Yep. He's good too. Timocratus, insanely good. Can't be blocked unless all creatures of any player controls block it. So you have him on the board along with 5 other big sea creatures. Attack with everything. He's going to draw everything. He's going to taunt everything. Everything's going to block him, and all your other creatures are going to go through. Monstrosity of the Lake. He's really good. Another one that taps everything your opponents control so that you're free to attack. Storm Surge Kraken. Okay. We have Slinvoda, the Rising Deep. He is also another one-sided board wipe. This deck actually has quite a few board wipes, but half of them are hidden in the creatures. We have Serpent of Yawning Depths. This one is insane for this deck, because all your Krakens, Leviathans, Octopuses, and Serpents can't be blocked except by other Krakens, Leviathans, Octopuses, and Serpents. Stormtide Leviathan, Island Walk. All lands are islands in addition to the other types. Creatures without flying or island walk can't attack. So you are protected. Everything without flying or island walk cannot attack whatsoever. Watcher in the Water. He's really good. Here's another board wipe. Cataract Leviathan, 5/5. Comes into play, return all other non-land permanents to their owner's hands. Spawning Kraken. Whenever a Kraken, Leviathan, Octopus, or Serpent you control deals combat damage to a player, create a 9/9 blue Kraken creature token. This is broken in this deck if you can get it out. Realm Walker. He is a changeling, so he does count. You can look at the top card of your library anytime, so this also helps you determine when to activate your commander's ability. And you can also cast them from the top of your library. You may have noticed how some of the creatures say on cast. Some of those you don't want to cheat out. So it really depends, like this one. You want to cast this one because his ability is an on cast. But other than that, you still get a 7/8 for a lot cheaper using the commander's ability. So even if you're not getting his cast ability, you're still getting some good valuable creatures out for less. We have Sword Coast Serpent. You can honestly probably take him out. Junkwinder. Affinity for tokens. Don't really matter, we're not a token deck, but whenever a token enters the battlefield under your control, tap target non-land permanent and opponent controls. It doesn't untap during its controller's next untap step. So there are some token creators in this deck that are pretty good, and they make quite a few, kind of like Spawning Kraken and the Deer Kraken. And if you have those out with this guy, good synergy, good combos, and you still get a 5/6. Elder Deep Fiend, he's 8 mana for a 5/6. When you cast a spell, tap up to 4 target permanents, so he is another on cast. But even then, you're still getting out a 5/6 for a lot less. Now, onto our non-sea creature support creatures. We have Errant Street Artist. You can copy target spell you control that wasn't cast. You can choose new targets for the copy. So all our spells, all our creatures that we're cheating out from the top of our library are not being cast. We copy them. Also Deep Dwelling, I will show you in a bit, but she is a near infinite combo with Cataract Leviathan, and I'll show you that interaction in a minute. We have Biomaster's Familiar. This reduces your commander's ability activation cost by 2. So then his ability is 2 mana to activate. Elvish Manor, it's more scry, and whenever you scry you tap permanents, opening up for attacks. This one is more scry at the beginning of your upkeep. Sphinx of Foresight. We have Thassa, God of the Sea. There's more scry on your upkeep. And we have Aboleth Spawn, 2 and a blue. It's just good because whenever a creature entering the battlefield under an opponent's control causes a triggered ability of that creature to trigger, you may copy that ability. So what happens is if an opponent's creature has an ETB effect, you take that effect as your own as well. So you're just getting more benefit, more value out of something that is 3 mana. Now, I want to show you this before I sign off. This is every card in the deck. I want to show you this interaction before we go. So imagine you have a big board. Everyone has a big board. You have Thassa Deep Dwelling out, right? Which she says at the beginning of your end step, to summarize it, you blink a creature, right? So they leave and they come back instantly. Now, Cataract Leviathan, if he's out, or no, play him, and then you return all other non-land permanents to their owner's hands, including your own. Okay, cool. You bring Thassa Deep Dwelling back to your hand. Well, you're going to have more than enough mana to be able to recast her, and then, yeah. So then a turn goes around, goes to your turn. Odds are no one has creatures to defend with. you swing with Cataract Leviathan, end step, bam, she blinks him, board wipe again. Okay, wait till your next turn. Cool, he can attack again. And then bam, blink, board wipe, wait another turn, attack. Infinite combo of just wiping the board infinitely and just pinging people left and right until they die. I made a lot of people scoop with this combo before, and it is disgusting, and honestly, I don't think you need Thassa Deep Dwelling in this deck. She's just fun. So that is my Kenessos Priest of Thassa deck. So far, this is a 100% win rate deck. I have played against other competitive decks with this and won. Not full competitive, not EDH, but like just higher level power commander. And this thing kicks butt, and mind you, it can be a whole lot better. And with the recent ban of Mana Crypt and Jewel Lotus and all that, this deck doesn't have them, and it still operates surprisingly well. And this commander's only 2 mana anyway, so it doesn't fucking matter. You can get him out turn 1. Yeah, it's so good and so reliable. The only issue that this deck has is that it plays the same every single time. Every time you play it, you expect the same thing. Everyone expects the same thing. There's no variety every time you play it. It's kind of a one-trick pony. But it does its job, and it's super fun to play. And it's just real fun being able to see all the 6/6 and 12/12 sea creatures come out of nowhere and kick butt on turn 5. And with that, I'm going to sign off. This has been fun. I really hope you guys give this deck a shot. I forget the price of this deck. I want to say it was about 100 to 120 at the time until I started adding more cards like Jason Mind Sculptor and Scroll Rack. And to make this deck even better, you can still put in Sensei's Dividing Top. And then after that, this deck is pretty much a well-oiled machine. And yeah, I hope that this video gets out there, people share it, people start playing more of this deck, because I feel like it is very overlooked. There's some cards in here that people just are really underestimate, honestly. Everything in this deck is pretty underestimated except for Scroll Rack and big stuff like that. But yeah, I hope you have a good day. Give this deck a shot if you can. And I'll see you next time.